Hi there guys, says one speaking. Welcome to my channel. This is the second part of my tutorial series. Last time we did a simple cube and put it into perspective, but this time we're gonna work on some more complicated shapes and putting those ones into perspective. Let's get it started. Alright, so first off we're gonna put this hexagon into perspective. We're gonna name the parts. This would be the front. This will be the top side, of course, and those both sides would be the left side. Now I'm gonna put this all in the top corner. So let's put in our hexagon into perspective. We're gonna start with the front first, and we're gonna work on the sides and the bottom or top later on. The first thing I want to know is where my object is gonna be, above or below the horizon line. Now in this case, I'm gonna keep it above the horizon line, and we're gonna do a more complicated shape below later on. Now to put in the front into perspective, that's not gonna be so straightforward. So what I'm gonna do is just show you the front side just flat. That's what we're gonna start with anyway. To put this into perspective, that's gonna be very hard. But one thing we already learned is how to put rectangle shapes into perspective. We did that last video, and we're gonna use that knowledge to draw in our hexagon into perspective. So I'm just gonna bring up another layer, draw a square all around my hexagon, something like this. And now we're gonna put that shape into perspective first. I'm gonna move this all aside. So what I'm gonna do first, I told you before, we're gonna draw this hexagon above the horizon line. And we're gonna focus on the reference first. I'm gonna need 3 vanishing points. One over here, that's my first vanishing point. Over here, second vanishing point. And let's say I'm gonna draw in my shape somewhere over here, and I'm gonna pick a vanishing point on top. That's what we're gonna call vanishing point 3. Remember, that was 3-way perspective. There are more, there are like 5-way perspectives too, but that's for a later video. Just gonna keep it simple for the time being. Now, what I'm gonna do is draw this left side of our front first. That's gonna be our cornerstone. And I know my shape will disappear into the distance from low to high. So I'll start with vanishing point 3, let's say all the way down. And I want the bottom of my reference somewhere, let's say over here. I want the top somewhere over here. And we're gonna make it disappear, let's say, to that side. This would be my front. And here we're gonna put in the left, but that's for later. So I'm starting with the top side, go to my vanishing point 2, there you go, to the lower side, and there our first side, second side, and we got our third side in. So this is the top, first one, this is the second, and this is the third side. Now of course we're gonna need the fourth side as well, but remember, we gotta make it a little bit shorter. So let's say this is a rectangle, we're gonna shrink this side just a little bit, because it will become shorter the more it gets to the vanishing point, the closer it gets to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more space, something like this. So now we got in our reference. That's a good way to start our drawing. Now I'm gonna clean this all up, because it's gonna get a little messy now. So please stay with me. First thing I want to know is, where is the center of my square? The one that I done put in perspective. And that's easy. I go back to my reference below and I just draw in the diagonals of my reference. I'm gonna do the same, but now in perspective. Start with the lower corner. And now we decided where the center is. The center of our actually reference, and we're gonna build in our hexagon. Now what would be nice if I would have straight lines from top to bottom and from left to right down the middle of my hexagon, but also my little reference that I made over here. Okay, cleared it up a little bit, and now I can use a little bit of 8 down here. I'm gonna do that again in another color, let's say yellow, and I'm gonna draw through the middle of my reference, but needs to be straight down. That's why I'm using these aiding lines, because that's very important. The better our reference is, the better our end result will be. That looks something like this. Now we're gonna do the same, the yellow lines, and we're gonna put it into our reference line. And that's actually just the same thing. I'm just gonna create a path to do it right the first time. Go to the center, that's very important. So, but keep in mind that we gotta put it into perspective, right? So we're gonna go to vanishing point 3. This is our top line that we drew in. And now we're gonna do the horizontal line, something like this. So that's pretty easy. Now we already got everything set up to put in our hexagon, but there's gonna be kind of a problem because it's for us now very easy to draw in this corner and this corner. But we're gonna have trouble finding these ones because where they're gonna be. We need to decide that first before we can go any further. And I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit on our reference, something like this. And I'm gonna show you how we can do that. You can draw in so many 8 lines as you want. And I'm just gonna pull an extra one from my red rectangle to the center of my red rectangle. And I'm gonna do that all the way across. That's just simply another reference line. Because I know in case of a hexagon, what you are gonna get is that these corners, I'm gonna show it, these corners, they go straight, if you go from top to bottom, they go straight to the blue and orange lines. So that's a good reference, because if we take that all the way down, we can tell this corner right here is dead in the middle of our little square here. And that's something that we can use. I'm gonna just clear it out a little bit to keep it kinda clear. Hope you're still following. But we're gonna draw, I'm gonna just put it all the way back in. So I'm gonna get these blue lines in from the top, middle, to the middle left, middle bottom, middle right, and middle top again to close it off. And now it's pretty easy for us to draw in our rectangle itself, because I'm gonna get another blue line, make another path, something like this. I'm gonna start from the top and go straight to my blue lines. Where the blue and the orange lines cross, that's where I need a reference now. Should look like this. Of course on the right side as well. There we go. And now we got everything set up to draw in our hexagon. How I'm gonna do that is just fade it out a little bit, because it's already hard enough to keep up. And we're gonna start with the top first. I'm gonna do that on a different layer. We're gonna start with the top first. And we know that should be from here to here. Then we got our center reference point. That should be, oh, that's a mistake. Should be here. And to find the top, the bottom, excuse me, we should go over here. That's where the blue, the light blue goes across. So that would be from here to here. The bottom corner, this one. Again, the blue line. Here we go. Last one. Over here, that's the last corner. And then close it off. And here, if I turn off this layer, we got our hexagon into perspective. I'm just gonna clear it up a little bit. I know it looks kind of weird, that's what it always does, but it's gonna look better when we're gonna get our left side in. That's the next thing we need to do. You know what, I'm gonna pick another color. Let's say this one. So we start at vanishing point 1. Take the top side, vanishing point 1, the middle corner, that looks like crap. Do it a little bit nicer. The bottom, and then just figure out, I think we're gonna see, yeah, that's what we're gonna see. So now we got our left side in, but we need to cut it off because it should follow the shape of our hexagon itself, of course. But now remember that this side, the left side, the lower left side, will be a little bit bigger. Let's say I'm gonna exaggerate it, and the top should taper in. And that's another kind of restriction that you have with working with vanishing points, is that I cannot use vanishing point 3 because that shape goes the other way. And that's another restriction of vanishing points. That's why I'm trying to teach you to just eyeball it. You're gonna need references like what I'm doing now, but if you eyeball it, I know now that this top side should be smaller, let's say something like this, smaller than, let's say, the middle. That's gonna be a little bit wider. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna draw it in very quickly, but I'm gonna use the reference first. So a little bit smaller, come out a little bit, go to the bottom side, get a little smaller again because that side moves away from us. And then finally, here we can use the second vanishing point. So you go from here to your second vanishing point. And that tapers in as well. Now, this is my shape. I'm gonna draw in black the 3D side. Here we go. And that is our hexagon into perspective. Now if I turn my layers back up, you see if you look at it like this, it looks very complicated, but it's just something to get used to. It's not that hard to do. And that's it for our hexagon. Turn off these layers and look something like this. Now it's not perfect, of course not. It's just an exercise we're doing here. But now let's turn off those layers and let's start clean. And we're gonna do something different, but kind of the same, just to repeat what I'm doing. But we're gonna draw a shape below the horizon line. We're gonna draw in a plain circle and how to put that one into perspective. So I cleaned everything up and let's start in drawing a circle. Now, of course, it's not gonna be a circle, it's actually gonna be a cylinder. And the cylinder you can see over here, and we're gonna draw in the front first. We're gonna put the whole thing below the horizon line, and we're gonna need, of course, 3 vanishing points. First one over here, that's the first vanishing point. On the horizon line, the second one, second vanishing point, and then somewhere below the third vanishing point. Now we need the front, but we need it flat, and that should look like this. Get a reference around it, so that we can put again the reference into perspective and so put the circle in our reference. I'm gonna do that with the vanishing points over here. Let's say I'm gonna put in this side first. This from our vanishing point below. We decide the height somewhere over here. We're gonna draw in the lower side somewhere over here. And we're gonna make our front will be over here. This will be the 3D part, that's for later. So let's get the top one in. From the top of our first line to the first vanishing point to the lower side. Now we got this side in. We got this side yet to draw in, but this side we already got. To put this side in, go from the lower vanishing point, let's say somewhere over here. It's gonna look very extreme, but that's okay. That's what I'm doing anyway. I'm not gonna bother about 3D part yet. I'm just gonna go back to my reference on top, on the flat shape, and I'm gonna search where the middle of my shape should be. My reference and my circle as well. Diagonals, same thing as before. On the 3D part, put diagonals in, something like this. Gonna decide the middle, so that would be like this. Get the A lines out of the way. So now to put that into perspective, we're going from our third vanishing point straight to the middle. Gonna realign my path, something like this. Go straight down, that's fine. Put our path into the first vanishing point. Again, to the where the orange lines cross should be our middle. And there we have our setup for our circle. Actually, we need one more thing, and that's the blue line. Go all the way across, just to get where these corners need to be of our actual shape. And we can tell it's about half of this side. So we're gonna do that in our 3D part. Over here. And we know our circle has got to be a little bit down here. This side should be, remember, for shortening, so we gotta watch out not to go too far in or out. We're gonna do the lower side, again a little bit off the middle, something like this. And then for the lower side, the furthest corner, also a little bit over half of it. Now, the hard part, drawing the circle in. I'll start from the bottom, somewhere over here. I'm gonna pick another line so I can keep it more sketchy. Something like this. Go to the center, make it fluid. Go to the next center, go way out a little bit over half. And then to make this one fluid, we need to go out just a little bit. Something, yeah, that's kind of good looking. Again, on the lower side, we're gonna have sharp corner here, but here we need to come out just a little bit. Just past the blue marker. Go up to the center, something like this. Then we need this point. But remember, for shortening, if you look over here, it should be a little bit below that blue line. So make it fluid, something like this. And here come out a little bit. I need to get below that blue line. And there you have your circle, at least the front side. Now let's get in the 3D part. That's gonna be over here. That should be the right side, of course. And then we go from the top that you can see to the second vanishing point. I'm gonna make it a little bit harsher. Bottom the same side to the second vanishing point. Always take the middle as well. The middle of our reference and our circle, of course. And maybe you can do even the top line across. And then it's just basically drawing in the right side. But remember, this side should become a little bit more narrow because of it's further away from us. And the same goes for the bottom. That's actually just for shortening. I'm gonna draw in pretty quickly, just with the same line. I'm gonna darken it later on. Follow this shape, but come out a little bit on top. And then go shorter the further the shape gets away from us. Something like this. Clean it up a bit. There you go. Get all my layers back up. Like this. And there you have your circle, at least the front side. Now let's get in the 3D part. That's gonna be over here. That should be the right side, of course. Gonna pick another color. And then we go from the top that you can see to the second vanishing point. I'm gonna make it a little bit harsher. Bottom the same side to the second vanishing point. Always take the middle as well. The middle of our reference and our circle, of course. And maybe you can do even the top line across. And then it's just basically drawing in the right side. But remember, this side should become a little bit more narrow because of it's further away from us. And the same goes for the bottom. That's actually just for shortening. I'm gonna draw in pretty quickly, just with the same line. I'm gonna darken it later on. Follow this shape, but come out a little bit on top. And then go shorter the further the shape gets away from us. Something like this. Clean it up a bit. There you go. I'm gonna draw it in black now. And that's of course our front side, and we got our right side. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. And next time we're gonna talk a little bit about intersecting shapes. Let's say we're gonna have a cube. We're gonna have a cube on top that goes to the first cube and such kind of things. That's always very fun to play around with. And it's very important for the kind of work we do. So yeah, hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.